If there's one thing that shaped my life and transformed me from the sloppy, modern nice guy into an aspiring individual pursuing more out of life, is cinema. From the way I dress, talk, and navigate life as a whole, films have influenced all of those essence. Because when you are born into a place that is less than ideal, a place out of touch with the finer things in life, media becomes the way to expand your exposure to those things. While there are many types of media to choose from, film or cinema as a whole holds a unique position. It's a series of motion pictures edited together into a whole storyline based on the vision of the director through actors and actresses. And since human desires to be exposed to information that serve their ideal state of mind that aligns with their identity, then the films you watch will reflect your inner character and taste. Now, if you click on this video, you're likely to have a similar taste to mine. A world of elegance and glamour, a society where people still maintain class, and a lifestyle full of sophistication and excitement. It is this medium called cinema that contains those elements and is able to express emotional energy toward us in a way that no other medium can. While most people see it as escapism, but for me, is true aspiration. Because the main problem with the effect of cinema is that it tends to function as escapism rather than as something productive or great. It often gets criticized for its fantasy-driven stories, leading people to become distracted from their own lives and use it as an escape mechanism to forget about reality. This is where the difference between a mere consumer and a researcher lies. For typical people, cinema is simply a way to escape the harshness of life. For me, and likely for you, we see it as aspiration. A vision of how life could be better and finer. Because gentlemen, humans are creatures wired for storytelling. The world we experience as out there is actually a reconstruction of reality that is built inside our heads. It's an act of creation by the storytelling brain. The Science of Storytelling by Will Storr. With that said, storytelling is how we interpret everything that happens in our lives. When you listen to or read the news, it always starts with a headline that fully or partially captures what, where, when, why, and how, followed by the context to set up the whole story. When you tell your friends or others about a certain situation, you start with who, then what they did, and might follow with where, when, how, and most importantly, the consequence of it. Films are stories that are narrated with a specific formula, potentially designed to provoke emotional arousal and make you form a bond with them. On the other hand, a film that doesn't resonate with you or is hard to understand narratively will fail to evoke emotion, making you feel it's boring or not worth watching. The problem nowadays is that most 21st century Hollywood's films, especially those in the 2020s decade, are not aligned with the virtue of elegance and class. You can spot this clearly in the influence of woke culture, which has been widely discussed and criticized over the past few years. It has ruined the tradition and virtue of many classic franchises, and I only hope it won't happen to James Bond, though I'm not so sure because given what they did with the latest one released in 2021. Anyway, the main issue for this is that we can't find a decent aspiration or role model in modern cinema, whether on the silver screen or streaming platforms, and that has led to the absence of the classic masculine role model that once glorified the past. To fully understand this, perhaps we need to go back to the history of pop culture and Hollywood, the most influential entertainment entity in the world. Why is it that in the early to mid-20th century, we had male figures like Cary Grant, Fred Astaire, James Stewart, and Gregory Peck, and 4 female figures, names like Katharine Hepburn, Ingrid Bergman, Audrey Hepburn, and Grace Kelly. But in the modern landscape of cinema, we can't think of any figures that reach the level of class and sophistication like them. And gentlemen, this isn't meant to talk down to the modern professional actors and actresses, but rather to highlight the overall shift in aesthetic and image projection as a whole. So, my assumption here is that we need to look into the post-World War II era where Hollywood began transitioning into a new one. I once talked about this shift in masculinity in my video titled Why Modern Men Crave Classic Masculinity More Than Ever, and I must say there is a strong association between the death of class and glamour in cinema and the decline of classic masculinity. The catalyst here was still the counterculture movement of the 1960s. It was a movement that actively rejected and opposed the dominant different cultural norms, values, and behaviors of the mainstream society at that time. Since teenagers naturally tend to rebel against the tradition of the former generation, this movement, combined with the global political climate, spread across many parts of the world. Especially in Hollywood, the more rugged anti-heroes personas of James Dean and Marlon Brando were celebrated. In the UK, the rebellious energy of the Beatles reshaped the entire music industry. Even in the continental Europe, figures like Serge Gainsbourg emerged as icons of coolness. This is how the entire world shifted due to the counterculture movement, going in the opposite direction of the previous generation's values, polishness, class, elegance, etiquette, and gentlemanly conduct as a whole, and cinema was one of the biggest entities affected by this change. Because before the 1960s, while there were genres like film noir that explore the gritty and brutal aspect of human nature, the overall aesthetic of cinema still leaned toward class. And that's one of the reasons why people call this period as the golden age of Hollywood. But when the cultural tide shifted, even Hollywood had to adapt. And that was the birth of New Hollywood. So came new icons like Steve McQueen, Paul Newman, Robert Redford, and of course the rugged charm of Marlon Brando, James Dean, and Sean Connery. Now, if you look at these names alone, you might think that this era still carry a sense of class, and I wouldn't disagree, especially when you compare to the modern film landscape. Yet the key difference between New Hollywood and the Golden Age was the message of the films. Because this new one leaned towards a more realistic, raw, and rugged portrayal of life rather than the glamour and grandeur of the Golden Age. What's interesting is that this shift wasn't exclusive to Hollywood. On the European continent, both Italian and French New Wave cinema redefined their very meaning of filmmaking by interpreting cinema in their own way, making it a reflection of real life, one that wasn't necessarily beautiful or elegant. Gentlemen, if you're interested in New Wave films, here are some great places to start. For French cinema, start with a film from director like Jean-Luc Godard. And for Italian cinema, directors like Federico Fellini or Michelangelo Antonioni. These filmmakers and their works captured a different essence, where cinema was no longer just an art form of aspiration, but a mirror to reality. Now, gentlemen, here's the core idea behind all of this. Realism became the main ideological shift in this new era of pop culture. And what does this mean? It means that cinema stopped being a shaper of how life could be, and instead became a reflection of how life is. While this sounds virtuous and might even seem like the right thing to do, it erased the single most powerful motivator for human, which is hope. This is the essence that makes humans look forward to another morning when they close their eyes at night. By stripping away all aspiration and sophistication from human experience, what is left? A dystopian ideology where no matter how much you try to get better, life will never reach the vision you dream of. The effect of modern cinema is that it has shaped our perception to the point where we can no longer tap into virtues like elegance anymore. And in not just this medium, but also mass media as a whole. This is why you can easily find comments on clips from Golden Age Hollywood films on YouTube or Instagram saying they don't make things like this anymore. Now, I'm not saying that films from Golden Age Hollywood or even the mid-century glamour era were all perfect. Because even back then, the main function of cinema was to help people escape from the harsh realities of the Great Depression, World War II, and even the Cold War. But one thing we can't help but notice, and can still feel from those films, is the emotional essence of how life could possibly be. The daily style that maintained polishness and class for both men and women, the graceful interaction between classic masculine and feminine individuals, and most importantly, the sophistication and excitement that one could have in life. Think of James Bond film, for example. This gentleman is well-educated, well-cultured, well-trained, and he simply experiences his daily life at its finest. This is why I, you, and perhaps millions of men and women are attracted to fictional characters like James Bond, even after 6 decades and beyond, because he symbolized the ideal version of a man. Now, I know the classic objection to this. People will say that a character like Bond exists only in fiction and will never exist in real life. It's delusional to think that one can live like him and experience all that sophistication. But gentlemen, what people often overlook is the principle behind ideal classic fictional characters like Bond and many others. Instead of looking at exactly what he does, look at the why and what behind his action and thoughts. From his approach to style, to his social charisma, to his way of living as a whole, that's the core idea that classic cinema gives you. Because amidst the modern day life of a man, You could never expect anything better than the ability to make your presence feel so awesome that you actually enjoy the grind, the challenge, and life itself. Productivity is a trap. Becoming more efficient just makes you more rush, and trying to clear the decks simply makes them fill up again faster. 4,000 weeks, time management for mortals. Honestly, I used to have an aggressive opinion against Mr. Bergman because a few years ago, when I began my journey of self-improvement, I believed that planning every moment, being productive all the time, sitting in front of my computer all day just to complete tasks, these were the only things that matter. No socializing, no dating, no cultural cultivation. I was too focused on getting things done without realizing the joy of being alive, or even allowing myself to feel alive in the first place. You know that life as a man isn't easy, let alone as a gentleman. It's full of external dissonance and internal pressure. You know that you need to stay focused on your purpose, your goals, and work towards them every single day, even though you haven't yet seen or tasted the rewards of your labor. So one thing I'm sure you'll keep asking yourself is this all there is to life? Sure, pursuing purpose, working on what truly matters to you. These are all great and essential, and it's obvious that mindlessly scrolling through your phone or drinking for the sake of escapism are not how you want to spend your time. Yet, gentlemen, the missing puzzle piece is the experience of what we call life as a whole, kind of daily sophistication you see in Bond films or the glamour of classic cinema. So, what if I told you that you can have it all, that you can turn your entire life into a cinema from now on? Because life is cinema. And that's the philosophy that shapes every single aspect of the person you're seeing on the screen right now. As you already know, humans are wired for story. We all attach to and understand the world based on the narrative we tell ourselves. Cinema, films, movies, they are all stories, one that are crafted from the scratch and brought to life by many professionals behind the scenes, including actors and actresses. Speaking of which, actors and actresses in film are also divided into different levels. Extra, the least important roles existing solely to shape the environment. Character roles, characters with a name, background, story, and life who have some interaction and engagement with the narrative. Supporting roles, side partners who are directly involved in the story and influence the narrative as a whole. And finally, the most important role, the lead or protagonist, the star of the story, the one who dictates the entire narrative and carries the film on their own stage. But of course, none of these actors and actresses would be able to bring a film to life without a director, the one who shapes the entire vision of the screen. When you combine the director, actors, actresses, and of course a dedicated production crew, you get a piece of cinema, a story that exists. So, what does this have to do with our lives, you might ask? Well, in film you have several levels of actor and actresses, right? And you also have a director who shapes the entire narrative. Now, here's the harsh truth about the current world. Most people are merely extra, or at best, supporting roles in someone else's direction. In other words, they are just character in someone else's story. They have no awareness of their own reason for existence. They have no real purpose. They simply exist day by day, just staying alive. My philosophy of life is cinema is all about becoming the protagonist of your own self-directed story. And if there's one thing I hope you take away from this weekly issue, is this: become the protagonist of your own story. To do that, you must first believe that your existence matters to you. Second, recognize that you have the power to control your own life. And third, reshape your perception of life as a whole, realizing that you are the one who creates and directs your own storyline. This has everything to do with self-identity and the narrative you subconsciously tell yourself every single day. It is no exaggeration to say that every human being is hypnotized to some extent, either by the ideas they have uncritically accepted from others or by ideas they have repeated to themselves and convinced themselves are true. Psycho-cybernetics. This means you must create a worthy identity, one that does not compromise for comfort, one that is not drawn back by the past self, and one that ready to strive to become the best version of itself, to truly be a protagonist of your own story. And this is exactly why I create an entire system to help you achieve this transformation. It's called the Narrative Shifter, and right now it's in the pre-launch phase, which means the price will go higher up in the future. So, gentlemen, if you're serious about taking control of your own life and identity, you can check it out through link in the description. With the idea of life is cinema, the belief that you are your own protagonist with full control over your life's narrative. Now, the only matter left is inspiration to create one of your own. This leads us back to classic films, the elegant, proven records from a bygone era. Since humans are creatures wired for story, what could possibly be a better way to absorb the essence of greatness and feel inspired to craft your own life than by exposing yourself to a narrative that contains all the virtues you must embrace? So, from this section onward, allow me to share 5 classic films that have shaped the entire idea of a gentleman, an archetype that reflects the highest caliber of modern men you could aspire to be. The first film is the one that acts as an anchor for my life vision. It served as an aspiration for my ideal life and the world I would love to recreate at its finest. It's also one of Ralph Lauren's all-time favorites, The Philadelphia Story in 1940. While I mentioned this masterpiece many times in my previous videos, this time, I want to focus on the aspect of elegance and glamour, the very thing modernity seems to have lost. When it comes to the cast of this film, there's no need for further explanation. Cary Grant, James Stewart, Katharine Hepburn, 3 legends in a single film. You can expect charm, wit and class from each of them in their own special way. The core idea of the Philadelphia Story is about redefining the idea of nobility. What makes this film truly elegant is its complex portrayal of life for both men and women, regardless of social class. Cary Grant's character is an old money gentleman with look, skill, and social status, yet he sabotaged himself with alcohol due to the inferiority complex he developed while being involved with Katharine Hepburn's character, his wife. She demands perfection in everyone and has been worshipped by men throughout society, which makes her feel like no one truly knows her until she meets James Stewart's character, a man who once despised the elite class but ends up charmed by her presence. All of this led to me a conclusion, a major source of my vision for life. Humans are not perfect by any means, and that's completely okay, as long as they continue sculpting their character. In other words, as long as they hold the virtue of elegance. Because even with flaws, mistakes, and imperfection, elegance remains the key virtue that makes society look good and feel good to be part of. Its effect in the way people respect tradition, the way people speak with politeness, and the way people dress up daily in classic style. That's the world I want to see again. And the Philadelphia Story just gave me hope for it. Now that you have the vision for an elegant life, the next thing you need to embrace is the energy and essence of classical masculinity. Because one thing we can all agree on, modern society has turned the word masculine into something negative, which couldn't be further from the truth, at least when it's come to classic masculinity. And the reason I'm so sure of this is thanks to Roman Holiday in 1953. This is the exact cinematic piece to watch if you want to understand the definition of classic masculine and feminine energy, the tension and beauty of romance they both create when they are perfectly matched. Led by a true lady and gentleman, Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck, they deliver a masterclass in this. Because gentlemen, I don't know precisely what your dating experience is like in this modern era, but I'm quite confident that this exact pattern is happening not only in the middle to upper class in Bangkok, but also in other major cities worldwide. Most men let women lead without taking charge in any part of the activities. They don't know how to charm and engage with women in real life, both sexually and non-sexually, and this leads to a shift in masculine and feminine energy. Men tend to become more feminine, while women tend to become more masculine, and the result? Nobody is happy. And for me, Roman Holiday serves as a guideline for this. Because based on Gregory Peck's character, he's embodied what modern men lack: calmness, integrity, manners, chivalry, polished appearance, and presence. And for Audrey Hepburn characters represents the energy of youth, freshness, revelation, creativity, joy, and emotional driven, traits that define feminine energy at its finest. Gentlemen, if you watch this film, or if you already have, this Oscar-winning film gives you everything you need to absorb the type of man you want to become, and maybe even the type of women you would love to date. But speaking of feminine beauty and elegance, of course, they also have their own standards, especially when it's come to the charm of a man they attract to, both his internal character and external appearance. And that's why, for me, the next film that best defines sartorial style and charismatic socialization couldn't be anything other than To Catch a Thief in 1955, the portrayal of the charming gentleman who effortlessly attracted the elegant lady. You've probably seen me include footage from this film in my previous videos many times, and the reason for that is To Catch a Thief perfectly reflects the attractive elegance of a gentleman as I envision it. As you know, Cary Grant is the epitome of an elegant gentleman, not only in his demeanor, but also in his choice of style and the way he interacts with people. His character in this film, John Roby, is the embodiment of ease and sophistication. Starting with his choice of clothing, he perfectly executes the idea of context-based styling. This is a framework based on using context to determine the formality level of your outfit, ensuring you avoid overdressing while embracing a classic style. If he at the beach, he opts for classic Titan swim trunks. If he's having a casual day at home, he wears a classic French sailor top, relaxed pleat trousers, and espadrilles. If he's on a date with the gorgeous Grace Kelly character, a flannel blazer with an ascot and loafers is enough to elevate his look. And if it's a dinner at 5-star hotel, there's no other choice but the classic tuxedo, which he wears flawlessly. This film showed me that classic style is limited to suits, shirts, and black Oxfords. But it's not just the clothes that make Grant's character elegant, it's also due to his charisma and the way he carried himself throughout the film. That is what truly inspired me in terms of developing my own character. John Roby, this fictional man, is a man of mystery. He walks with ease yet with intention. He interacts calmly yet hints at witty humor. And most importantly, he unapologetically remains himself without insecurity. That's the complete and believable formula for why Grace Kelly's character is so drawn to him. I know it's just a film, not real life, but Cary Grant makes it so believable that it does apply to real life too. And from what I experienced so far, by applying the principle in To Catch a Thief, I can confirm that it elevates social interactions and enhances your ability to attract romantic interests. So, whenever you give To Catch a Thief a chance and witness the charm of John Roby, the next step is to act in real life, whether it's approaching your romance interests or pursuing something that aligns with your purpose. And no film provides a better case study for that than the fourth installment of the Ian Fleming James Bond 007 series, Thunderball, in 1965. I mentioned Bond films a lot, and picking the best one is difficult, but if I had to choose the film that defines the peak of the classical masculine gentleman, an action-oriented man with sophistication, then Thunderball comes to mind first. There's a lyric from the film opening song, Thunderball by Tom Jones. He always runs while others walk. He acts while other men just talk. He looks at his world and wants it all, so he strikes like Thunderball. Many claim this lyric refers to the film's main antagonist, but I believe it serves as a perfect homage to 007 in this film. The plot of Thunderball, like many Bond films in those era, revolve around saving the world from the grand scheme of a powerful villain. But what set this film apart is that Bond isn't the only agent involved in this operation. It includes all of MI6-based agents. Yet, as the lyric suggests, James Bond is the man of action and he strikes like Thunderball. Throughout the film, you'll see the stakes he up against, the pressure placed on him, and the consequences of failure, yet he never loses focus or shows weakness. Instead, he relentlessly and creatively finds ways to accomplish his mission while still indulging in daily sophistication. He still enjoys his favorite drinks, spend time with beautiful Claudine Auger's character, and dresses impeccably even in the tropical atmosphere of the Bahamas. This leads to a key idea that purpose and sophistication can coexist. As a gentleman, you don't need to postpone life for the future. You can experience it now. If you don't know how, just witness the art of living as a gentleman of action in Thunderball. Now, based on all films we covered so far, there's something missing in the picture. A cultural intellectual, a substance that builds character, and even an approach of Renaissance man multi-mastery, which this last one served as the main inspiration for me. The Thomas Crown Affair in 1968. There's a question that used to cross my mind. How far can a man hone his expertise and experience life given that he only has one chance to live? And Thomas Crown is the character that answered that question, proving that you can be anything you want. From an entrepreneur with brilliant business acumen, a sportsman who fills his life with excitement, a cultural connoisseur who appreciates the finer things in life, and a gentleman of taste, style, and class. That's Thomas Crown for you. And just as Leonardo da Vinci once said, develop a complete mind, study the science of art, study the art of science, learn how to see, realize that everything connects to everything else. Humans are universally drawn to this idea, and you're probably one of the people intrigued by the concept of multidisciplinary mastery. After all, most iconic fictional male characters, James Bond, Thomas Crown, Simon Templar, and others, all share one thing in common: mastery across multiple areas of life. Robert Greene put it best: mastery is a function of time and intense focus applied to a particular field of knowledge. With this ability, you gain control over your life, not just on a daily basis, but in handling the unexpected challenge that come your way. That sense of control, that unshakable confidence that you'll be okay no matter what. This is a blessing of the highest order, and the Thomas Crown affair serves as the perfect example of that feeling. The tangible rewards of honing multiple disciplines, proving that when you take full control of your life, it's become not just manageable, but exciting. Now, looking at all the film we have covered so far: The Philadelphia Story, The World of Elegance, Roman Holiday, Classic Masculine Energy, To Catch a Thief, Sartorial Elegance and Charisma, Thunderbolt, Action with Sophistication, and the Thomas Crown affair, the Renaissance mastery. There's one key element that ties them all together: becoming the protagonist of your own life. The practical step here is to extract the essence of this classic film and apply them to your daily lifestyle. Just as I have distilled key ideas from each of them, the more you absorb and apply lessons from classic films, the more interesting your life becomes. You cultivate taste, explore new possibilities, get inspired by different ways of living, and ultimately create a life so exciting that distractions become irrelevant. Well, gentlemen, that's it for this weekly issue. If you want to further develop your lifestyle into the ideal version of yourself without self-sabotage, check out the Narrative Shifter. As I said, the price will increase on March 17 after launch, so consider it soon if you're interested. Also, you can download my free ebook, the Sartorial Codex. All links are in the description. Apart from that, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I also hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day.